So how do we do it? This is what I teach to my MBA students. We ask 5 questions. We essentially ask people to answer these 5 questions. If you do come up with right answers to these 5 questions, you have a business. And this is very much driven by these principles. First one is what inspires you, what bothers you. We send our students to the street of Philadelphia. They take pictures, they interview people, they make observations, they come back with a whole host of ideas. And I ask them, what excites you and what bothers you? Someone says, oh, the trash can piled up really bothers me. Or they said, I was so inspired by the kids, African American elementary school kids, playing at the playground, running around and laughing. That really inspired me. You know. So all we do in the first question is identifying what inspires me. Now, I teach this to the management school students. I really believe that true inspiration can only come from God. You all have advantage on this. You can go out and see things through God's eyes, and it's going to inspire you. This is not right. We can do better than this, right? So that you are moved by what you see. It's very, very important. I told you that finding the right problem is the half of the problem. I'm not talking about solutions. I'm not talking about innovations. I'm just talking about what bothers you, what inspires you, what do you want to magnify, or what do you want to eliminate? What do you want to change? The second question I ask my students is that who are the stakeholders and what is their relationship? We're not just looking at one customer, we're looking at whole stakeholders in that inspiration. Right? We have kids, right? But kids, who else is related? Well, kids have friends, kids have parents, kids have teachers, kids has, neighborhood bad guys around. Blah, 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 blah. And we ask them to draw the map of their relationship. It's like a social diagram, like social network. Understand who's influencing whom, and so on. Never focus on users alone. Users are very important. But oftentimes, the behaviors and benefit, their needs are driven by something else. So this is a case study that I always use. You go to women's clothing store, shopping mall. Going to shopping mall is never my hobby, particularly with my wife. My path is very straight. Her path is very winding. She has to stop every single stop and spend enough time looking around, even though she's not going to buy anything. It's just like, what a waste of time, right? Because men are very goal-directed. Women are very experience-driven. So you go to a shopping mall with your wife, doing service, spending time, right? And then you go to this shop, women's clothing store. And back then, when we didn't have a BlackBerry or iPhone, it's really a terrible place to be at for men. If you're laughing, you know what I'm talking about. There's absolutely nothing you can do. It's not designed for me. It is all designed for women, right? There's no place to sit. There's no place to comfortably stand. And all women. And the only place to sit is where they check out their shoes. Toward the end, all the way corner, there's usually a bench, and then there are other women checking out their shoes, and you sit at the corner and very uncomfortably, out of place. And now, when I'm not very comfortable, you get irritated. And when I'm irritated, then it is shown up. And then it affects my wife's welfare too. And then she becomes anxious. And she wants to leave quickly. And she doesn't enjoy her shopping experience. And as a result, she doesn't spend as much money as she could. One day I walked into South Park Mall back in Cleveland. It's way back, 1998 or something. I walked in and to my pleasant surprise, someone put a big sofa in the middle of the store, stacked with men's magazine, sports and cars and stuff. So what did I do? I sat down and read those magazines. Someone actually was trying to meet my need For them, I'm not a customer. I'm one of the stakeholders. And then I'm happy. And then my wife was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm fine. Just take it. And then everybody happy. And we spent a lot of money. They're happy. Gap kids was losing money, so they invited designers. And then they came, and they said, "We need new interior design." And Gap designer said, "Let us make some observations, see what's going on here." And here's what they found. During the day, the suburban mall, the mom would come get kids with 2 toddlers on average. Their travel distance on average is about 15 minutes. They're driving a minivan, 2 toddlers, and they are fighting in the car during the trip because they got bored. And when mom arrives to the store, her goal is very simple. She wants to get out of that store as quickly as possible. Because last time when she was there, she was so embarrassed with her toddlers misbehaving. Now, if you know anything about retail, the goal of retail is all about keeping. No, first of all, you need to bring customers into the store and then keep them into the store. Because if there is one factor that affects sales, is that time that customers spend in the store affects sales more than anything else, right? So everything you do, you just keep the customer inside the store is what they do. Now here's the dilemma, right? The goal of the customer and goal of the store is completely diametrically opposite. The customer wants to live there as quickly as possible, and the store wants to keep them as long as possible. Why? Well, it's because of those little devils. And the mom's emotional status is affected not based on the store, but based on what happened in the car. So then designer said, your retail interior is fine. You need to do something for these kids. So here's what they suggested. They sent a monthly coupon to moms to drive their traffic. But they suggested, why don't we just give them little game, paper game, 2 of those that are attached to the coupon. So the mom doesn't need to prepare anything, just all we need is to occupy the minds of these young kids for 15 minutes. Easy, quick thing that mom doesn't need to separately prepare, just throw it to the kids and they will play this, coloring and hidden picture and whatever, connecting the dots. Just occupy their mind for 15 minutes, 10 minutes. Then they will be in a much better emotional status coming into the store. And then we do some kind of area for kids so that they will be occupied and the mom can actually enjoy the shopping. So what I'm saying here is that a lot of times good business is actually finding hidden voice. In the society, hidden voice is people who are not powerful. The customers, the store owners didn't pay attention to the kids because kids are powerless. They do not have purchasing power. So it was not likely that they want to cater toward the needs of those kids. But actually catering toward their needs, who are powerless, who do not have a purchasing power, actually was a good idea. Right? Remember, Bible, God said that children and widows, serve them, treat them well. What God wants. Forcing people to identify these stakeholders, make you to do good business. And that's God's idea. Third question that we ask is, what are the unmet needs and why are they important? So I don't say anymore hidden needs, I say unmet needs. Find them, right? What do they really want? Well, we all know what you want. You want to make a lot of money, and you want to take their money and put it in your pocket. Well, that's an outcome of you feeling their needs. So Professor Yoon, he has this very simple survival equation. Any business should have this. The value that your product and service renders to the customer should be greater than the price. And the price should be greater than the cost. After all 40 years of his management research, that's the only truth he found. If your company meets this equation, your company is going to be successful. Every single case you think about, if you violate this simple principle, you cannot survive. Right? So unmet needs means, translating, means that you need to create value for your people. Price comes after, and the price cannot exceed the value that they perceive, right? And it all comes from understanding what they really need. Only then you begin to think about your product, your solutions. What am I going to do now? Now I understand what I want to do, inspiration. 2, who are the people that I want to serve? 3, what is their needs? And then, what can I do to serve them? What am I going to make? Because you're a businessman, right? If you're a preacher, then you will preach. If you're a teacher, you will teach. If you're a singer, you will sing. If you're a businessman, you will make products and services to meet their needs. That's number 4. And if you're a good businessman, you need to think about this. What are the resources that you need to create and sustain your solution? So that's the second part of the survival equation, right? The price should be greater than the cost. You need to understand what is a sustainable business model. How am I going to do it, right? And unfortunately, most of the managers focus on this part. They all usually start from this question. How do I manage our resources, operation, and so on? It's completely wrong way. And again, if you read Steve Jobs' biography, you can see actually he's following these 5 things quite closely. He put together his product ideas based on his understanding of his own needs, who he sees as like a uniquely qualified customer. It's like, to me, interesting thing about Steve Jobs is that he's not a technology person. He doesn't know how to program. But he loves using technology. He's a hobbyist. So what he did was he built a company to meet his hobbyist needs. And he's a very peculiar, savvy, difficult customer. So difficult customer is your best friend because they're telling you something. They're telling you that your business is not as good as it can be, right? So, reward your difficult customer or difficult employer. Another rule is that if you have someone under you who's making your life difficult, reward that person because that person is getting ready to take over your job when you get promoted. Right? All right, so let's think about briefly the innovation in a historical context. There used to be a award called CFO of the Year, given by CFO magazine. Scott Sullivan of WorldCom got it 1998, he went to jail. 1999, Enron CFO Andrew Basto got it, he went to jail. And Mark Short from Tyco got it 2000 and he went to jail. The sponsor was Arthur Andersen, which was bankrupt because of Enron. Why is that a problem? Right? So we all think that this was an ethical issue. And it was an ethical issue, but it was not an ethical issue entirely. It is about changing the world. The world has changed. So what are 3 big forces? I'm going to leave with you this. The first one, going back to technology. Technology is no longer the main obstacle for human imagination. Moore's Law, we all know about Moore's Law. Every 18-20 month, the capacity of technology, microprocessor doubled over the last decade, several decades. This is memory capacity, same trend, double every 2 years. Number of transistors for memory capacity, same thing. The internet capacity, doubled every 2 years, same thing. Screen resolution, doubled every 2 years, same thing. And in fact, the human computing capability goes beyond digital technology. As early as 1900, if you map the capacity of computing capability, it has doubled every 2 years. In economic terms, same microprocessor that cost over $200 in 1992 now costs a little over a quarter. Gigabyte memory, which costs over $500, is now less than a dime, a little over a dime, 2008. So now it probably is less than a dime. 1 gigabyte transmission cost over $1,000 in 1999. 2008 it cost $130. By 2020, $10,000 PC will cost about $10. $1,000 PC will cost about $10. Technology has become, digital technology has become in the first world disposable, right? We do not upgrade computers anymore. We just get a new one because it's cheaper. So we're living in this ubiquitous digital world. Everybody has computers. The definition of ubiquitous computing is that when there is more than 100 computers in a room, we call it a ubiquitous computing environment. I bet this room has more than 100 computers, including your phones. So this is what we did in the past is that we did what we could do. Feasibility was our goal. So this is a mobile computing prototype that I took a picture of when I visited Intel 2002. Look, 512 megabyte was the memory capacity, and it has some kind of mobile radio, and look really, really interesting, right? Now we have a Siri in your pocket, right? You know, and the Siri is getting sick of all these stupid questions. My son tweeted the other day, Siri is going crazy, becoming insane for all these stupid questions that people are asking. But think about, you know, the possibilities that we do. What we now do is simply what we want to do. Technology got to a point where the human imagination is not ahead of technology. We kind of go together. So that's one big trend. Second trend is anyone with $300 network can participate in digital innovation or digital production. Industrial economy is defined by physical machines. Physical machines, their role is transforming natural energy into production energy. And they're very, very expensive. And what they do is they make same product cheaper and faster. Same product a lot of times. Why? Because the machines are very, very expensive. So the goal of management is maximize the utilization of the machine. So that's why we have big corporations, right? And then you use the same machine to produce many different products. And that's what essentially we do. That's how American industrial society was built. We built this big machinery, physical machines, steam engine, and then diesel engine, and then nuclear engine. These are all physical machines. And we use this to produce stuff. And in order to do that, you needed a lot of money because the machines are very expensive. And that's where Wall Street is coming in, right? The people with good ideas do not have enough money in their pocket. They had to go to the Wall Street to raise capital. And the role of Wall Street originally was to collect capital from people's saving and then make investment to the industrial entrepreneurs, and then they create return on investment and they redistribute the wealth to the investors. That's how industrial society worked. This is what Chandler documented in his work. Now what happened was that particular formula has completely crumbled down in the United States. Two companies got bankrupt. 2007, General Motors and Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers represent Wall Street. General Motors represent industrial society. When industrial society crumbles down, Wall Street didn't have any place to invest their money. So what do? They invent phony product, and they invest on themselves. And then they created this bubble, and then as the bubble grows, they collapsed. That's exactly what happened. But it's nothing surprising in a way. It was taking place. So the whole industrial world is based on the logic of scarcity. Because expensive machines are very scarce. So you create economic value by creating scarcity in the economy. And you have rare physical assets and you create physical products. Now because making these products are very expensive, not everybody can do the production. So there is the separation of production and consumption. So we all become professional consumers. We never consume what we produce. We don't even know what we produce. This is what Marx noticed. We all work in part of the production chain and we never see a complete product. We all do little things. And we go home and consume what these big corporations produce. Right? So what happens? The society has become professional society. We have a professional managers. professional musicians, professional this and professional that. And management is the pinnacle of this professional society to produce professionals who do not know anything but managing people. And that's really bizarre. Now the world has changed, and that's why these people went jail. Because they didn't know what to do. They're very creative people, and they ran out of ideas. And all they could do was just cook the book. Now we are in different economy, at least in the first world. It's competition of ideas again, right? We call post-professional society. So let me give you an example. This is Yoo Ma, professional musician. This is his recording. Joy to the world, something like that. Peace, joy and peace. He said, playing myself and giving you as a professional consumer to listen to my music is really boring. So what I want is I want you to join in production. So he did a competition. So he said to the world through the internet, create your own music, playing with my own music. I'm gonna crowdsource my music to you, and then you create your own and do the competition. And then I'm gonna record music with the winner. This is the winner. He's not a professional musician, but he just did play. Yo-Yo-Man's role was serving the desire of this musician who wants to express his own musical talent, even though he didn't get any professional training. He served the needs of the crowd by creating this. This is the role that managers need to play. I'm going to skip this example. So we're living in this economy where we talk about generativity and using digital technology, digital products, and so on. I'm skipping. The third force we see is this kids, emergence of kids, millennium kids. These are what we call digital natives. They are born into the world where computer is. It's very interesting. I was born into the world where TV is and telephone is. I cannot think of an image in a world where there is no TV or phone. But when I was born, there was no PC. Right? My kids were born into the world where PC was there. His first bedroom was wired with internet. And that's how they grew. We call them digital natives. This is Roblox. This is where my son, little one, learned everything about computer programming. And this is an open source community, and kids actually share their tricks. Many of us are digital immigrants. Some of you are digital natives. So and then all of us are immigrants because we are in the United States. So being an immigrant and native is all about language. So I learned English as my work language. It's not my life language, right? So when I was a doctoral student here, the most difficult thing is going to like a Burger King and order, or Subway. That's the most challenging place, right? Subway, and then you need to customize your brand and everything, and then you don't understand this, the African American accent, and it's, and oh, fine, thank you, and then you go to Burger King at number 1, and you can communicate. And then you go home, and then I speak my Korean language, right? You go to haircut, you speak in Korean. My kids, they don't do that, right? They speak English, their life language. So they go to the restaurant, they speak English. Now, if you're digital natives, computer is your language. So you use digital technology for everything you do. Many of us, computer is our work, so it is natural for us to expect that when work is done, we turn off computers and then we do something else. For kids, there is no something else because computer was part of their life, that it is on all the time. And so for a lot of conflict between parents and kids nowadays, it's about this technology thing, right? And of course, I have that problem too with my boys. But some of it is that we have to understand what's going on. It's almost like Korean parents telling their kids who were born and raised in America with English, their native language, and force them to speak English, Korean. Stop using English when you're here. And then there's a stop communication. They just stop talking because they cannot speak Korean. Think about kids who grow up with their iPhone in their pocket. expecting the mobile phone in the pocket can tell them where they are, who's around, what's available all the time, just at their fingertip. So management is not just about professional managers anymore. Managers must be an enabler of others to solve their own needs, meeting their own needs. So I'm going to go very quickly. So what can we do? Thinking about plausible, technology developments. Okay, so these two examples. In developing countries, there's 1.5 million mobile subscribers who make less than $3 a day. And that means, somebody calculate, 250 million idle hours of mobile phone not being used per day. Now, in America, there's a medical transcription industry that charges about $100 for 1,000 lines. Very expensive operation. So some people found that people can transcribe. These are English-speaking 2.5 billion English-speaking mobile phone users. What if we give them small segment of 5 lines of transcription to these people, which will take less than 2 minutes to transcribe, and pay them fraction of cost, meeting the needs of these people who desperately need help creating business. Aqueduct. 1.41 billion people in the world, no clean water. They tend to walk 4 hours a day, every day, to get clean water. Mostly women and children. So what they did was creating this prototype and then final product. This is a video that is not coming out. What it does is that there is a filter that is connected to the pedal. So when you drive this bicycle, while you're traveling, water is clean, and then you get clean water. So why can't these people be Christian farmers, VA and nurse, showing alternate to reality, and revealing a glimpse of God's kingdom?